Yeah, we are going to be talking about those. Hello everyone. It is your boy back with another video, and I really need to talk about something, and that is the Omegas in JWA Live. Holy shnikes. I have a lot to cover with these. So, when they were first introduced, I wasn't a huge fan of the idea, but now that they're introduced completely, they seem like a great idea. If they weren't so underwhelming. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when they were first introduced, the Omegas were originally just creatures that didn't have all of their abilities unlocked unless you leveled them up to a certain extent. But now that they're fully implemented, not only do you have to unlock all of their moves, but now you can change the stats in a specific way. So you can have a creature focused on damage, or a creature focused on speed or something. And it's not just health, damage, or speed that it's focused on, but it can also be like armor, crit chance, or crit damage. Now, again, on paper I wasn't a huge fan, but now in practice I love it if they weren't so underwhelming. I said that earlier and I'm saying it again because I really want to emphasize the point that the concept is game like changing, but the creatures themselves really aren't. Now, when I say that, it sounds unbelievable, and I'm sure it's a hot take to some degree, but when I say that the majority of the Omegas aren't very good, I genuinely mean that. So the only ones that truly stand out to me, if I had to pick the top 3 out of the 6 that have been introduced, the main ones would be Clever Girl, Diabloceratops, and Toro. So the first 3 that were introduced were Diabloceratops, Stegoros, and Toro. And then the second group was Fukiraptor, Yuxisaurus, and Clever Girl. I talked to my brother about these, and I usually refer to these batches as Gen 1 and Gen 2. Gen 1, I would say, had a better lineup than Gen 2. And that's not saying much, seeing how really not any of them are fantastic. The only, like, number 1, like, top 1 out of the 6, I would say would probably be Clever Girl. Only because of her insane crit chance. She has fairly good speed. I would say really good speed. Now, I'm not referring to, when you first unlock her. I mean the potential speed she can have with the training points. She has incredible crit chance. I want to say she has pretty good crit damage, and her speed's pretty good. Like, all around, she's a pretty good raptor. I feel like people can do some pretty nasty stuff with her. But again, she also doesn't seem super game changing. Now, what I mean by that is the concept of Omegas is game changing, but the Megas in question are not game changing. Because, like, a perfect example is Yuxisaurus. I would argue the worst out of all of the Omegas. Now, why do I say that? He has 2 rampages. He has pretty good defense. He has abilities that increases defense, inflict bleed. Like, how could I say that? What's going on there? Well, he doesn't have the most armor out of the Omegas, which isn't his top priority, is to do the rest of the Omegas. But the fact that he can only have 33 based armor at max, that's with max training points, is 33% armor. To put in perspective, Toro and Diabloceratops can have more armor than him with max training points, which is kind of ridiculous, seeing how, again, Yuxisaurus I mean, his main thing is armor. He is like the reptilian version of Deodicarus. All right. His thing is armor, and the fact that he can increase his armor is good, but the fact that he can't have a solid 40% at least, with max training points, that alone I'm kind of iffy on. And you could argue, well, he increases his armor. Yeah, cool, but like I don't really see why that matters. Yeah, he increases his armor, so things that don't pierce through armor can't really hurt him. But at the same time, as like the same kind, wow, if I can speak. But at the same side of the coin, no, that doesn't make sense either. Well, on a different side of the coin, holy shit! What I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he can increase his armor because the things that are going to counter him go through armor regardless, and the things that don't counter him aren't going to be able to go through his armor. So he counters things that don't go through armor, and he gets countered by things that do armor. That is fine. I don't see why he can't have a base 40% armor. Okay? That doesn't make any sense. The fact that he increases his armor is cool. I would argue they messed up on his spike protection. I feel like that if all of the positive effects, not including armor increase, affected the entire team, that would work. And if what is inflicted on the enemy affected all of the enemies, not just one. Like, there are so many things that I would change with him. Well, not him specifically, but I should say the Omegas. I have so many plans on how they could change the Omegas. Because, again, they are extremely underwhelming. They, like, Stegosaurus, his counter is awful. God-awful. Like, it reduces damage by 15%. Honestly, who cares? Great, 15%. Oh, wow, great. Most of the higher-ups are going to either cleanse it or just ignore it. Nothing cares about a 15% decrease. Like, that is a useless counter. I would argue that Ref, not even Ref can utilize a counter like that. Because originally, I want to say Ref's counter, right now, it decreases the opponent's attack by 10% when not threatened, and then when threatened, it's 15%. So this is a slightly better version of Ref's counter, and it's still useless for him. Still useless. The only selling point for Stegosaurus is the fact that his strike is an instant strike, and he's immune to rending. I'm not even kidding you. That's pretty much it. Yeah, great, he has dispersed fierce impact, but that's not going to help very much when most of the things he's going to be hitting with that with is probably going to be compies. The other one's probably going to be the Scorpion hybrids, but again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of see it working with the Scorpions, but that's really about it. Again, this is me comparing the Omegas and what they can do at max level, max training points, you know, obviously how you build them kind of changes their niche in a sense, but they're all kind of moved to a specific, like, niche, if that makes sense. Like, they still have the classes. Like, Clever Girl is cunning, Diablos is resilient, Fuki Raptor is resilient cunning. Like, they all have classes still. So they're kind of leaning towards a specific, like, class, which isn't bad. But again, they are extremely underwhelming when it comes to movesets and resistances. Their stats alone, I really don't think their stats are bad. Resistances, they're not bad, but for some of them, they're underwhelming. And movesets, I would argue, some of them can be god-awful. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, Fuki Raptor's abilities, its moveset, holy crap, did they drop the ball on Fuki Raptor. For those of you who don't know, Fuki Raptor is a cunning resilient type. And oh boy, did they miss the mark entirely on the resilient type. Because I see more cunning than resilient here. The only resilient things that I see here are anticipation and digging on escape. I would argue digging on escape isn't even that good, really. Like, it's okay. It's better than having no, escapee move. But I would prefer, I don't know, anything else. Like, this is better than lockdown, okay? This is better than escapee lockdown, where all it does is lock the opponent in. It's better than that, but it's not better than anything else. And then the persistent counter? Why does Fuki Raptor have persistent counter? It is a resilient cunning type. Persistent counter, last I checked, was a fierce type counter. Like, this is a weaker version of what T-Rex has. Why does he even have it? I would say that they should make Fuki Raptor a little more like Red's hybrid, in the sense that it should have the resilience of said hybrid along with its own unique cunning abilities. Like Elimination Strike, that's great. But why is it only a basic strike that does slightly more damage than a normal strike? Why? Make it precise, at least. You know? So Elimination Strike does slightly more than the average strike, attack, but it goes through dodge and cloak. That's more useful than what I'm seeing right now. Pounce and Bite. Right now, the summary is messed up, so it doesn't have the reduced damage on it. Like, in the icon it does, but in the summary it only says, does impact damage twice. Like, that's all it says, so they need to fix that anyways. But Pounce and Bite, I really think they should just make that precise as well. Just make it precise. Keep it the way it is, but make it precise. Anticipation, I would say that's all great. It should probably heal strike damage. So it gets dodge, armor, and strike damage. So it's kind of like its own like weird version of the Reds hybrids, shielding, distracting move, whatever. So instead of giving shield and distracting and speed up, this one would give dodge, armor, and HP. So it's like its own variant of that. And then Evasive Impact, honestly, I really got nothing for Evasive Impact. I guess make it hit group, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I'm not really too concerned with Evasive Impact, personally. Maybe, like, cleansing Evasive Impact so it cleanses too. That would probably work because there's no cleansing move here. There's not even... I'm looking at it right now. I'm just checking right now that there's no cunning type move at all here, so it can't even cleanse bleed, and it's not even resistant to bleed, so it will get completely messed up by DOT. Or just cleansing Rampage, that would work too, I'm sure. And then persistent counter, I would say make it Red's hybrid counter, so like precise counter, or maybe if you think that's too OP, make it medium precise counter, so it does half strike damage. Like, either way, I went off a tangent on Fuki Raptor when I just meant to make this whole video on Omegas. But still, what I'm trying to point out with this is the Omegas really are not that great, I would argue. And I feel like they need to improve on them. Like, they're making this an extreme time sink. And for those of you who are spending money on it, it's a huge economic sink too. And it just doesn't feel worth it for the large majority of these creatures, which really sucks, because these creatures, on paper, sound great. Like, I love the idea, I love, customizing your creature, being able to make it fill a niche that maybe you need for your team, and, like, it seems, again, on paper, it seems great, but the kit that they gave us for these creatures are just not good. They're just not good. Like Stegosaurus, swap and nullification, that's all you're, letting me work with? Really? That's not horrible. I would argue that's better than the swap and lockdown that the Andrew Tops, I think that's his name. Better than the Andrew Tops has, because all the Andrew Tops has is the unique one, the unique wildcard one. All that one has is swap and lockdown, so it does nothing. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like swap and nullification could be better, but I don't have a way to make it better. Distracting counter for Stegosaurus, please just change it to anything else. Like, I would even take like minimal or medium deaccelerating counter. At least that would serve a better purpose than fucking distracting counter. Oh my gosh, that is just horrendous. Distracting counter. There was no point in putting in distracting counter. I'm sorry. I really feel like that's a useless counter. I feel like it shouldn't even be on ref either. I feel like ref should have a better counter. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. I haven't dug too deep into to counters really. I'm just mainly going off like what they could have done to improve the base kit for these Omegas. Honestly, Segoros' strike is not bad. Like, if I had to improve it in some way, I would make it precise, but that's it. Really, it's not a bad strike at all. It's priority, it gives him shield, and increases his armor. Like, that's a great strike. I have nothing against protective advanced, as they call it. Dispersed fierce impact, like, that's whatever. Cool, I guess. I mean, it does its job. It goes through shield and armor, cleanses vulnerable, removes taunt, hits group for impact damage. It's whatever. It's a group hitting attack. Okay, it does what it's meant to. It's not as good as like a resilient group attack, obviously, because most of the time you're gonna be getting flocks that are cunning. But I mean, this would be good against the scorpions. Granted, that's really about it in terms of defensive flock creatures, but I mean, it's better than nothing. Emboldened, increases attack, shield, armor, priority. It's good. Oh, I didn't read the heal. Okay, so it heals by 25%. Wait, 25% of what? That's all it's. I'm looking at it right now. It's saying heal by 25%. By 25% of what? HP? Like damage? Like what are you healing by? I'm going to assume that's max HP. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm led to assume, because most of the time when it leaves base percentages, it means for healing anyways. It means for health or by health. Stunning vulnerability impact. I mean, it's an impact. It goes through cunning stuff. 100% chance to stun would be helpful if most of the higher tier could get stunned. But I digress on the stunning resistances. That's a whole nother freaking video right there. Honestly, I would say make that a group attack. Like Stegosaurus is I would say he has promise, and I'm only really saying that because of his strike and his rending immunity. Personally, I'm really not that hyped for Stegosaurus. My favorites, Toro, because I love Carnotaurus. Carnotaurus is awesome. But I would not say he's the best. He definitely is not. Clever Girl is the best. Yeah, Clever Girl, definitely. I don't know why they gave her a counter. She doesn't need it. Most likely she's going to be fucking dying anyways. I mean, actually, she has a lot of distracting moves. I mean, I guess she could probably outlive, like, maybe 1 or 2 hits. I don't know. I just don't... Like, I see a Velociraptor and I don't think, oh yeah, it can outlive a hit. Like, there's no chance, like, more than half the time. But who knows? Maybe she can outlive that, and by that I mean an attack. But what I don't understand is why the counter removes cloak and dodge. Like, I mean, I kind of understand dodge, because, like, there are things that can hit you and then get dodge right afterwards. But why cloak? The only creature that I'm aware of that cloaks right after attacking is Dracovinator, the new unique that spawns in close range, right? That's the only one that I can think of that cloaks after damaging you. So is that the only counter that this has? Like, because most of the ones that cloak are like the Indom line, right? Like Indominus Rex, Endoraptor, what is that one? The Ilicosaurus hybrid. Erlidominus. Like, those ones usually just cloak on primary and they don't do anything else. So, honestly, the remove cloak seems like it's just countering the Dracovinator, which isn't bad, but I don't know. When I first saw it, it didn't really make sense, but now that I'm thinking out loud, it makes some kind of sense, I guess. Hunt on escape, I mean, it's good. I would prefer it did some kind of damage, though, personally, but, It's better than not having an escapee move. Cautious double impact. This one gets me riled. This one rustles my jimmies. I do not like cautious double impact. And there is only one reason. They label it cautious double impact, but it doesn't even do impact damage. So for those of you that know, impact damage, they did a whole chart, a whole new damage chart with one of the newest patches, one of the most released, or one of the most recent patches. They did a whole damage chart. Everything from 1 times to 49 times, 1 to 1.49 times damage is considered a strike. Anything that is 1.5 to 1.99 times damage is an impact. Anything that is 2.49 times strike, took me a second to process that, that is considered a rampage. Decimation is 2.5 to 2.99, and anything over, or anything that's 300 or over, or not 300, 3 times, I keep getting mixed up. I'm sure I'll have something on the screen showing the chart, but anything that is 3 times or more is considered a, what do they call it? Not decimation. Oh, I'm blanking right now. I don't know. It'll be on screen. But yeah, it'll be that big menacing word that plagued the Jurassic World Alive scene for a hot minute when it was first introduced. It's really not that big of a fucking deal anymore. So, it doesn't do impact damage is what I'm trying to get across. It does strike damage. So how are you going to call it cautious double impact when it does strike damage? Okay? I get that it hits twice, but we have plenty of moves that do strike damage that hit more than once, but they are not called impacts, okay? This is a cautious double strike. If they wanted to make it, strike damage, then just call it cautious double strike. Call it what it is. Don't tell me it's an impact when it doesn't do impact damage. If you want it to be an impact, make it do impact damage. That's probably the thing out of Clever Girl's abilities that makes me the most frustrated. Because they call it an impact. Where is the impact damage? Now, don't get me wrong. I get Clever Girl's a critting machine. I get that if she's allowed to crit with 2 impacts in a row, she will probably decimate someone. But that's on Ludia, alright? That's on them. Or Jam City, however you want to refer to them. That's on them. They set themselves up for that. Now, I'm not saying nerf her. I'm saying change either the name of the move to strike and not impact, or change the damage multiplier of the move so it actually is what it's called. That is all I'm saying. That's all they need to change for her, okay? I think everything else is fine. I think the fact that she's weak to stun is fine. With a creature that fast, she doesn't need to be immune to stun, okay? The only time she needs to be immune to stun is, well, never. That would have been contradicting what I said, so joke's on you for thinking I was going to set something up for that. No, she should not be immune to stun. That would just be ridiculous. If she hits something that's tanky that can inflict stun on her, and, she's lucky enough to avoid the stun chance, good for her. But, more times out of not, she'll get hit with stun, and that is fine. She is a freaking critting, speedy monster, and she has 3 priorities if you're including her on-escape move. So that's, honestly, I don't find that being a big deal at all. I keep getting lost in the sauce on all these freaking Omegas, but I'm telling you, dude, Omegas are not all that, and it is an issue. Because the thing about Omegas is not only can you customize them, but from what I am aware of, they were supposed to be the next tier above Apexes. Which I don't know if that's true, but from what I'm aware of, that's how they were going. Which isn't bad. It's fine. Whatever. Freaking make a better rarity. I don't care. But at least make it worth my time. Because there is an extensive time sink into these. Extensive. And I'm not saying just because, you only get 12 DNA per direct hit when you are at max level. That's, whatever. I don't care about that. What I do care about is the fact that they implemented really, I would argue, harsh restrictions on the availability of these creatures. You can only dart Diabloceratops and Stegoros, whatever. You can only dart those two 6 times out of the week. And I don't mean, dart them 6 times individually. I mean Stegoros and Diabloceratops, you can only dart both of them collectively together. You can only dart them 6 times. So if you dart 6 Diabloceratopses, you cannot dart Stegoros. That is how they made it work. And that, I think, is ridiculous. They should not be doing that. If they want these creatures to be as hyped up and as crazy as they are supposed to be, enough to, put restrictions on them, why are they not as crazy as they're leading us on to? Like, Euxosaurus hasn't even been officially released yet, and I don't even want him. I don't want him. He's a waste of time. Like, yeah, he bleeds. He gives himself armor. Hell, he can freaking heal himself on Rampage if he really wanted to. But the thing is because he's not immune to distraction, and, things that counter him are going to counter him way too hard, it doesn't even matter. Why would I want something that gets completely bodied by, I don't know, a Rexy? And don't get me wrong, I know that's a really hard argument to make, seeing how Rexy is really, really good. But what I'm trying to say is, the things that are going to counter it are going to counter it regardless. And the things that don't, why would you keep it in? It has a dig and on escape. Cool. It doesn't matter. It's going to heal strike damage. Its strike is not that great. So, right away, it's not going to heal much. It's not going to do enough Rampage damage to really make a mark in really anything. The bleed is what it's got going for it, really. But mostly everything in the higher tiers are resistant to bleed, so that doesn't even matter. And the only thing that's unique about it, really, if you're not including, some of the, cool, flashy moves that it's got, the main unique thing that it has going for it is the Affliction status, which, for those of you who completely forgot about the Affliction status, which I would argue would be very many of you, it reduces opponents' resistances to a certain extent. Which is crazy, because only the Frog had it. And nobody used the Frog because everyone that had a decent Frog are on higher tiers, and it would get completely bodied by quite literally everything in the tier. So why would you use it? So because of that, everyone completely forgot about it. Well, mostly everyone. Except for a few people that wish that, they would actually expand upon the status, which they didn't, obviously, until now. And it's on Euxosaurus' spiked protection. It's affliction by 25%, so it's reducing a singular enemy's resistances by 25%, which is pretty good. It seems pretty decent for PvP. But spiked protection sounds like it's something for raids, because hear this out. Target team shield by 25%. Makes no sense. Why would it only be 25%? It should be 50 at least. Oh, well, Euxosaurus also gets armor by 25%. Again, who cares? We have the one taunting, armored, shielding priority move that Dioraja has it. And it increases his armor by 20%, shields himself and everyone by 50%, and then gives him taunt. Oh, well, you see, they're probably Ludia or Jam City or whoever the hell is in charge of this game now. He's probably saying, oh, well, it damages over time by 20% of target's max HP and it inflicts affliction. It's like, yeah, but why does that matter? Because hear me out. The shield and armor aren't gonna mean anything when its counter is on the field. So if they're worried about PvP and how it'll increase its armor by 25% and its shield by 50%, it's not going to matter. If I bring in a Thor and they send that thing out and they're using spike protection thinking they're gonna, like, have the advantage on it, I am going to immediately use my cleansing group impact, the one that goes through shield and armor, you know, that diabolically heinous, crazy, mad lad move that only Thor has. You know, if I whip that thing out, it's dead. Or at least it's going to do so much damage that it wasn't even worth doing. And I know that seems like a crazy scenario, but think about it like this. I can bring in Tyrannometrodon, okay? Because Tyrannometrodon pretty much replaced Thor's presence in the highest, or the higher PvP arenas. I'll bring in Tyrannometrodon. He does spiked, or he being my opponent. My opponent does spiked protection. I'm going to hit through that thing, possibly insta-kill it because of how much damage I do, and that bleed is going to do nothing to me. And then I can just use my strike right afterwards, depending on what else the opponent brings out. It does not matter. Spike protection, on paper, sounds great, but when you think about it, it is awful. Now, if you were to make the team shield 50% and the target of the negative effects be the entire group instead of just one, it sounds like it'd be a really good raid move. But the issue is they didn't do that. So it's a mediocre version of what Dio has. Because more often than not, you know, all the creatures are gonna be resistant or immune to bleed, or at least the main boss creature is, which is the one that it's targeting. And cool, it brings out affliction by 25%. You see, no one cares about that. Why? Because why would you care about the enemy's resistances when you can just increase your speed and your attack and blitz through it anyways? It makes no sense. Why would I care? Oh, wow, you know, Mortem Rex with its 108 speed can't be de-accelerated. Aw, gee, I really wish I had Affliction so I can, you know, reduce its speed by, like, 15% instead of 0. God, if only I had that spiked protection to help me out with that one. Gee whiz, that sure would be super helpful. But, like, you see what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. And I just realized I went off on a tangent about spiked protection. Tangents are going to be too much in this video. I just realized. But the main point I'm trying to say is Omegas are not worth it. Except for, like, maybe Clever Girl and, you know, Tauros, obviously. Or Toro, excuse me. Toro is worth it, I would argue. Because they made him way more readily available than any of the other fucking Omegas. And I only say Clever Girl's worth it because mechanically, like, how she works, like, her moveset and resistances and stats-wise, she's worth it, you know? She's worth it. On top of, you know, trying to call out how garbage the Omegas really are and how Ludia or Jam City or whoever's in charge of these, you know, disappointments, whoever's in charge of these guys, they also screwed the pooch on the availability of them. And I'm not just saying, you know, screw Jam City or Ludia for not giving me free dinos, because I know that mobile games, especially free ones, rely heavily on microtransactions. You know, that's fine and all, but when they first announced Omegas, they said that everyone, including free-to-play players, are going to be having access to all of them. That includes Tauros, Stegoros, you know, Diabloceratops. At that time, that's all there was. But that statement is still there. I'll try to find it. I don't know if I can. But if I can, I'll be showing up on screen. But they said that it'll be readily accessible to everyone. But that was completely false because they made Toro an exclusive when he first announced. Okay, so quick editor's note. Not only did they say that everyone can have access to these creatures, but they also said that these creatures are going to be based off of actual, like, dinosaur discoveries. So last I checked, Clever Girl and Toro were not legitimate dinosaur discoveries. They were actually creatures based off of actual creatures that were made in the series. Like Toro was, I want to say he was introduced in Camp Cretaceous, and the Clever Girl is a reference to the one raptor that killed the hunter dude in the first movie when he goes, "Oh, clever girl," and then she eats him. So this is just a quick editor's note that I wanted to mention. And not only did I remembered that last bit about the Omegas, but I actually found the post where they said it, and not only did they say that, but on the same post, that's also where they said that everyone can get the Omegas, all Omegas. And last I checked, making the Omegas exclusive kind of excludes almost everyone. Last I checked, that's what exclusive means. So, yeah, just a quick editor's note, and also, why would you say that, Ludia slash Jam City, if you really did not mean it? Like, don't get me wrong, he's not an exclusive anymore, but he was still an exclusive for a time being. And now Clever Girl is an exclusive as of time of making this recording. Like, why? Why would you make any of these exclusive? These should not be exclusive. And again, don't get me wrong. I understand Ludia or Jam City or whoever needs to make money, but the fact that they're putting Omegas and shit like this behind a paywall is ridiculous. And I know there's already gonna be somebody who's saying, "Oh, well, you know, Clever Girl was in the Isla Nicta event a couple weeks ago as of time of recording this." It's like, yeah, I could only get about 300 DNA, so I could get it to level 3. But that's it. Unless I don't even think you could get it to level 3. I think you only got to level 2 if you only did the Isla Nicta event. And, like, even then, that doesn't, you know, let me unlock its third move, which is the first move that you unlock, the third one, because they already come off with 2 moves, but, you know, I can't even get to level 6 to even have a chance to unlock the first, I should say, the first move, unlock the first move, the first unlockable move. I can't even level it up, or I can't even get it, unless I get the creature to level 6. And then on top of that, it costs even more DNA to get the move. Like, it doesn't cost you coin or anything, which, thank God, that would be really stupid if you needed coin to do that, but you need an extra 300 DNA just to unlock the first unlockable move. So, you need the DNA to not only level it up, but you need the DNA to unlock the move, too. And you can't pick and choose what moves are unlocked first. Like, if you want, for Toro, for example, if you want to unlock the counter first, you can't. You have to buy everything, and by buy, I mean, you know, unlock through DNA. You have to get all of the other moves first, and then you can get the counter. And and you can't, you know, say, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna level up to level 21 and then get the counter." You can't do that. You still have to get all of the other moves first. So you're already not even able to pick and choose what moves are available to you in the first place. So you're using DNA to level it up. You're using DNA to unlock moves. Some of them you don't even want to unlock yet, but you have to because of the way it unlocks. And then on top of that, with exclusive like Toro was and Clever Girl is currently, you had and have to buy their DNA in order to, at the very least, level them up. And the DNA creep is ridiculous. Like, the DNA to level them up, like, I want to say it's every, like, 5 levels, it increases by a stupidly large margin. And it wouldn't be that bad if there were no restrictions. But the fact that I jump from, like, level 5 to 6, I want to say, goes from 100 DNA to 500 DNA, and that's not on top of trying to unlock the moves and stuff, it's just not worth it. Like, yeah, if it's there, like, if the Omega's next to you, like, out of nowhere, and you got nothing else to art, go for it, you know, obviously. But why would you go out of your way to get these Omegas when the time sink, the money sink, isn't worth it, and they're not even that good? It just makes no sense. And it makes me very upset because they said it's going to be accessible to anyone or everyone, and then they go ahead and lock Toro previously and now Clever Girl behind a paywall. And then they make the restrictions stupidly, like, restrictive. I get restrictions are restrictions by definition, but these are way too strict for the way they have them set up. And when you dart them on the map, 12 DNA per direct hit when you're on max player rank? What the hell? Are you serious? You're kidding, right? There's no way you are that naive to think that most of the people that don't pay for their shit, like, are that free to play. You don't really think they're gonna take all of the time of their week to dart, like, go out of their way and dart all of these Omegas just for them to not only be mid, but cost even more DNA to unlock the moves. And then, again, the exclusives. That really grinds my gears. None of them should be exclusives. None of them. They should not be exclusives. If anything, they should be the incentive to go around your neighborhood and start darting. Because they already have that kind of mindset drummed up. They already have that there. They have the bones, the structure of that there, which is great. But they're not capitalizing off of it. Instead, they have their heads firmly up their asses, thinking that exclusives are going to make the big bucks, when really it should be everyone can unlock them. They just need to go out of their way and dart them and try their best to evolve them, change them how they want. They already have the structure there to make people want to go out and dart things, which again is fantastic. That is the main focus of the game. But the issue is when you want to go out there and collect the creatures and you've done so much with it and like, oh my gosh, I got my Toro to level 21 finally. I finally unlocked all of the moves. I put some boosters on him. I put all my training points available to him. And then I bring him out and his moveset does not, support him as well as it should, and his resistances aren't as optimal as they should be. Not as they could be, but as they should be. Then I get completely wiped by a way better creature that is, from what I heard, a lower rarity than me. And they didn't take as much time to level it up and put boosters on it and shit. Like, that's gonna infuriate me or whoever tries to do that. Because, like, why would I go out of my way to make an incredibly good Toro when I can just, drum up a Dio Rajasaur and have equally, if not a better time using him than Toro? Like, that's what I'm trying to get across. Omegas aren't worth it in the sense that just use a unique. And the fact that uniques have enhancements on top of that, why would you not use a unique? Like, sure, you can compare an Omega to a unique, but the second that unique has enhancements, there's no competition. Like, really, there's really not. Because, again, as I've expressed and explained to you, the viewer, the Omega's movesets aren't great, if at all decent. And the resistances are around mediocre, with the exception of, Stegoros, because that rending immunity is nutty. But not a lot of things use rending in the higher arenas anyways, so who really gives a shit? And the things that do are Indotaurus, which, the fact that its cloak goes on top of its rending counter, that is the only time I see that rending immunity ever going to be viable, personally. Or, Mortem Strike, but who uses Mortem anymore? He's completely outclassed. which is another can of worms. That's a whole another video. Why Apexes should be all Tyrant tier. That is, I'm planning on making that video next. But either way, I think that's about it. This topic gets me heated because, like, I would look at them. I'd love, seeing the progression I made for these creatures, and then the yucky, gross, cynical thought of you're never gonna use them kind of creeps up on me, and I'm like, you motherfucker. I'm like, you're absolutely right, I'm not. You want to know why? Because I have crap like Geminitis, okay? I have crap like Tyranna Valkyrie. I have stuff like Compassoraptor and, all these other things that I could be using instead of the Omegas, because just off rip, they're already better. It's ridiculous. They need to buff these Omegas. And if you don't like the term buff, they need to change them. Because let me tell you, they need anything but nerfs. They need all the help they can get. Because right now, the elusivity of them is really the only main selling point. Because as I've said this whole entire video, they are extremely underwhelming. With the exception of like maybe Toro and Clever Girl. Diabloceratops has potential. Honestly, I feel like he's not bad, or she, excuse me, because. If we're going based off Jurassic Park lore, all of them are female. But she's not bad. But if they were to buff her at all, I would say just give her some distraction resistance, and then make her Resilient Strike a group Resilient Strike. Really, that's it. I mean, Diabloceratops is actually pretty good. Did I say that? I think I said that earlier. I might not have. Either way, she's pretty good. She's one of the top 3 I would have. Toro, Diabloceratops, and Clever Girl. The other 3 are just are bad. Stegoros, if I were to rank them from top 1 to bottom 6, I would say Clever Girl, Toro, Diabloceratops, Stegoros, Fukiraptor, and Euxosaurus. That is going from best Omega to worst Omega. Euxosaurus just is not, it's not it. It's not it. They need to do something else with it ASAP, because he hasn't officially launched yet, and he's already just the worst out of all of them. Alright, that's about it. This video's gotten, like, way too long. I'm gonna try to edit this and, not have it stupid long, but seeing how these kind of videos go, they're gonna be stupid long regardless. But yeah, thanks for listening to my tangent. Please let me know how you feel down below in the comments section. I would love to hear your 2 cents on the matter, and I don't mean that sarcastically or anything like that. I do mean that seriously. If you guys have like a counter argument or something, I would really like to hear it, because these Omegas are just not it. They're not, again, except for like the top 3, maybe. Either way, you guys have a good day. Stay safe out there, and I hope you guys have a great day. See ya.